Yeah, again, hello everyone. My name is Chris Lucas, also of BWB, and we're going to spend the next 40 minutes or so discussing will the NFL ever return to the City of Angels? And what I'd like to do is start it out by asking each of the panelists to introduce themselves and answer the simple question, should the NFL come back to Los Angeles? And just a quick yes or no. We'll start at the end.
Doug Farrar, run the Yahoo Sports NFL blog Shutdown Corner, and I think in the pre-internet era the answer is yes. I think in the post-internet era the answer is maybe.
Hi, I'm Steve Smith, NFL wide receiver for the St. Louis Rams, and I think it would be good to have an NFL team back in Los Angeles.
Hi, I'm Liz Mullen. I'm a writer with Sports Business Journal. And yes, of course, I'm an Angelino also. I have a 12-year-old son who grew up with no football, who's a San Diego Chargers fan. This is the best city in the world. Everyone knows it. We have the coolest people in the world live in this city who can afford to pay for suites and everything. Of course, yes. The answer is yes. They have their own microphones.
I'm Molly Knight. I write for ESPN, the magazine. I'm also an Angelino, born and raised, and I say yes.
Arash Markazi from ESPN Los Angeles, and I say yes, because it would obviously help me. I'd probably cover those teams, and it'd be good for me personally. I have to drive down to San Diego to see the NFL. That's a long drive.
Awesome. Well, all right. Well, thank you all. I would like to, and Doug, we're going to come back to you because you're the only one who said no on a post-internet era. No. Maybe. All right.
What's the matter, Doug?
We're already qualifying, yes. But I'd like to start off with, say, more the cynical view here, which is, just to get that out of the way, which is there actually a legitimate reason that the NFL would not want to bring a team here so that it can be used as a bargaining chip to build stadiums in other cities? Like, does the NFL benefit, in your view, from keeping a team out of here more than it does bringing one here? Your thoughts? Anyone, go for it.
I believe absolutely. Yeah, the NFL benefits totally. It's the 800-pound gorilla. It's the big threat it can hold over. And even if a team were to come back to LA, I think it's impossible not to make money in the NFL. No matter how dumb you are, if you own an NFL team, you're going to make a huge amount of money. Everyone knows this. So even if a team comes to LA via relocation or expansion, the NFL can still say, well, if you don't meet these standards, whatever those standards are at any given point in time, the need to from the owner's financial standpoint, from the community's financial standpoint, it's this enormous thing no matter what. So the NFL does benefit, but even if that changes and a team does come here and that void is filled, I don't know that it would be too much less of a threat for existing owners.
Anybody else?
I think the NFL benefits from there not being a team here. Just like you said, that you can negotiate with other cities and towns, saying that we're thinking about having a team in LA. What are you going to do to keep your team here? How much money are you going to be able to raise? Different things like that for marketing and stuff like that. But, if if an NFL team is in LA, they're going to make so much money, and it's just going to benefit the NFL and the team, I think, a lot much more.
I think the NFL, for the same reasons these gentlemen said, has benefited in the past. However, in this state of the economy in this country, in every city in America, I cannot imagine that you're going to continue to have this situation where taxpayers pay for stadiums. So if they have benefited, in my opinion, and perhaps some of the other panelists know more, is that it's about to end.
California just balanced its budget too, right? Are they going to want to pay for a stadium?
California will never pay for a stadium.
Yeah.
Well, the good thing is that they don't have to. We have two proposals on the table that no taxpayers' dollars. And the NFL has benefited greatly. 22 new stadiums since the NFL left here. I would imagine half of those teams basically said, if you don't build us something, we're going to leave. So the way that they could work around that, though, they've said that the new stadium would house two teams. So theoretically, let's just say the Chargers moved here, they could still say, well, there's room for two teams there. So, there's always ways, I guess, around that.
it's sort of weird to think about another team from another market moving here also, if how LA will embrace that or accept it. I mean, like it's been mentioned that the money is incredible. Obviously, the suites will be bought and the seat licenses will be taken out. But it's kind of weird, right, to think about like the Los Angeles Jaguars, or I guess the Rams or the Raiders would be. People had that before, so it wouldn't be as strange. But it is kind of weird. Yeah.
Is that why you said maybe in a post-internet era, Doug, that people can follow their the teams that they have allegiances to easier now than maybe in the past? And
well, not only that, but so much more because revenue obviously for both sides comes primarily from two things: TV deals and digital rights fees. Mm-hmm. Attendance right now, I mean, I would defer to Liz on this, but it's probably third, just as far as sheer attendance, even when you have luxury suites and boxes and things like that. I know that so much more digital rights fees were put into the new CBA as far as the split went. So I think post-internet, where it's so much more of that global reach, and you can get all 22 from NFL Game Rewind and NBC's doing their stuff live on the internet, it's not nearly as much about location. So I think the location factor is not eliminated, but it's certainly lessened.
Well, here's the other thing. I mean, you don't need a team in Los Angeles, and Los Angeles doesn't need to have a team. I mean, the NFL is so popular, you could have successful teams in Green Bay, Wisconsin, and Jacksonville, Florida, and Charlotte, North Carolina, and it's totally fine. But it's the fact of, would you like to have a team? And I think it would be hard to imagine the NFL wouldn't want to have a Super Bowl here and to have like a team here. But again, it's going on 20 years, so I don't know.
Well, as far as the latest developments, who in your mind is going to blink first? So right now you have the scenario where they are not going to, the AEG is the current owner of Farmers Field, and they're not going to kind of move forward until a team signs a lease. But at the same time, AEG is also in the process of being bid on, right? Yeah. So a team is probably unlikely to sign a lease until they know who owns it. So in your view, how does this Catch-22 end? Anybody? Who blinks?
Well, Arash knows more about this than me, I think. But I talked to a couple of people in LA. My understanding is this. So, and you can explain the deadlines better with the, is there a February 15th deadline? 15th. Right.
That's why no team
And it's not going to happen by then. Okay.
Exactly.
All right, but and maybe Arash can fill in the blanks. My understanding of it, and I talked to somebody who's been very involved in possibly owning teams, is that it can go from 0 to 100 in 10 seconds flat. And that basically you have to have teams that will negotiate with the stadiums. And both of the stadiums are entitled, is that correct? Because Arash knows more about it.
You could, they're basically to the point where they could push dirt as soon as the team decides to move.
Right.
Yeah.
And the AEG is for sale. They've started the bid process where billionaires who want to pay $8 to 10 to $12 billion, or corporations who are going to pay that are going to pay it. And the way it would work with AEG, if that were to happen, is you cannot have a corporation owning an NFL club. So therefore, if you have, say, for example, Coca-Cola wants to buy AEG, you have to have a human being, the CEO of Coca-Cola or whoever, Warren Buffett or some billionaire guy, and then that guy would buy 20 to 30% of one of these teams that could move. And my understanding, and Arash, please correct me, we're talking about the Rams, Raiders, Chargers, Bills, and Jaguars, right?
Yeah, the most realistic,
the
most realistic right now is the Chargers and the St. Louis Rams. And just having covered this for years, I can guarantee you, I don't know if I want to say guarantee. I'm 99% sure the Chargers won't get a new stadium in San Diego and the Rams won't get one in St. Louis. So it's just a matter of time. Do you want to stay where you are or do you want to move? That's the question, I guess.
Well, and as far as the Chargers, would anybody notice? They've had how many blackouts this season?
Yeah, and they're increasing ticket prices. I don't know how that's going to work, yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right, so we've heard, you guys mentioned you're as fans. Steve, I'm interested to know, as from a player perspective, what is attractive about playing in Los Angeles?
Oh, playing in Los Angeles is so attractive. Just all the people that are out here, all the celebrities, the celebrity that you get for playing for an LA team, all the hookups you're going to get. You better go to restaurants and clubs and get clothes. And I played in New York, so I see, you know, the big town, the media. I mean, it's just so many eyes on you, and it's just a great opportunity.
And now, does that help or hurt a team that's trying to build, though? So if you're coming into the second biggest media market in the world or in the country, and you know you're kind of putting a team together, do you want that kind of pressure and that viewership and that expectation? Because this is LA, we deserve the best. Yeah, right? You just said it was the best.
Baby.
Yeah, right?
The best.
That's it.
Yes, there's an entitlement that's coming through here. You know, is that a good thing as a player? Like, do you want that kind of immediate attention and, like you said, celebrity, or do you actually want the time to kind of build the program and build it up so that it's worth the viewership?
This is NFL, man. This is, come on, we need the pressure, you know what I mean? And this is LA, so I think being a player and being in LA, you want that pressure, you welcome it, and I think it's just going to only make the organization have to live up to high expectations.
But Steve, the media here isn't as evil as it is in New York, right?
Yeah, we're pretty.
No, then it's not as bad here. There's a lot of people, but it's not as, you know, on you as bad.
Doug, you had something to add?
I think one pure football advantage that a team in LA would gain is that, I mean, there's IMG in Miami, and API has centers in Arizona, and I think Houston. But there's more. There's more. Right, exactly here. But there's more, including what they do here. There's more football-specific off-season training, I think, in LA than anywhere else. So a team here, you almost have team facility offshoots no matter where you want to go. So just from a pure football sense and off-season training and getting your guys ready for the season, that's kind of a hidden advantage, I think.
Yeah, if you're getting recruited by Jacksonville and Los Angeles, and it's a pretty close offer, my assumption is Steve Smith would sign with the Los Angeles, whatever.
Yeah.
The team is.
Unless you want to save money on state tax.
Oh, whatever. Yeah.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the fan perspective, too. So there's been, you know, since 1994, the Rams left, there's been a lot of time to develop loyalties to other teams. Do you feel like people are going to make the switch just like that? Or do you feel like the people who have been Raiders fans for however long are going to stick with the Raiders and just kind of feel it out? Or what are your senses on fan acquisition?
You know, the feeling I have is if the Rams come back, you keep that because they have 50 years of history or whatnot here. But if it's the Chargers and certainly the Jaguars, you would have to make that like a new team, I think. That's my opinion, to make that property of Los Angeles. So, because I just have a feeling if it's the Los Angeles Jaguars or something else with the same logo, it's not going to feel the same.
Molly?
Yeah, I mean, right now we're in this weird place where ESPN, our company, is like pushing the Jets onto LA, and like because of the Mark Sanchez connection, and we all know how that worked out this year. So I mean, I think there's definitely a vacuum right now, and Arash is right. They'd have to rebrand it because I don't see LA being like Jaguars, but you know, the LA like traffic fighters, I guess, could work pretty well.
Well, first of all, this is a town we like winners. We don't like losers.
Right.
That's just how it is. I mean, that's just how Los Angeles is. And then we're also a city where a lot of people still have moved here from somewhere else. So, like, one of my best friends, who has money to buy suites and stuff, he's a Steelers fan. But he's going to buy a suite, because, especially if it's an AFC team, because he has to have seats when the Steelers come. When you have enough people with money in the city who are going to have seats, even if they're empty, they're going to have seats. Even if the team is 0-15, they're going to have seats. But you have, and Raiders fans is a whole other story. Okay, Raiders fans are like a breed of people unto themselves. God bless them. I love them. You know, except when the Chargers played the Raiders and I had to go to the seats and all that. You know, that was. But you know, you're gonna. I don't. If it becomes an LA team and the team wins in LA.
Yeah.
It's LA's team. Yeah. You're going to have movie stars. You're going to have music people. You're going to have. It is going to be the coolest stadium ever, and people are going to want to be there if it wins. If it wins, that's it. That's my opinion. What is Steve?
I agree with everything you just said.
There you go.
Well, I lived in Seattle for a long time, and I find it interesting that now there's the 12th man and the whole crazy stuff and then all the noise up there, and it's like, oh, the fandom. I was there in the late 90s when they almost moved, and there were more opposing jerseys in the stands than, not a lot of blue. And it wasn't until they brought Mike Holmgren in, who was the hottest name at the time, and they developed a team that could go to a Super Bowl. It's not real hard to figure out that winning breeds fandom. It's like the Mariners they've had the worst attendance in a number of years because they can't win. And Liz pointed it out. You like winners here, you like winners everywhere. If they start to win, if they start to build up that culture and tradition, I think it'll surpass whatever preconceptions there might be about the fickle LA market or anything like that. You're going to have the crazy football fans here that you would have anywhere else.
Real quick, this thing is going to take time. The league made a huge mistake. I mean, they returned to every city that they've been in within a few years, The St. Louis Cardinals left. They got the Oakland got a team back. Houston got a team back. Cleveland got a team. I mean, they return within a few years. It's been 20 years. So, of course, you have a kid who's going to be 22 who doesn't even remember that we had a team here. So when the league talks about that, yeah, because you've lost a generation of fans. So what do? Well, it has to begin at some point. So you come back, and it's not going to be at the beginning because, like I said, at the beginning you're going to have Steeler fans and Chargers fans and whatnot. But in 20 years or in due time, you're going to create that. But it's a little embarrassing for a league of that size to just leave Los Angeles, 2 teams, by the way, in the same year, and not think it's a priority to come back. And again, not because the league needs to come back, because at the same time that they left, around that time, we got the internet and DirecTV and fantasy football and da-da-da. And then, the league grew in popularity. But I just think it looks better for the league to have a team here. So, I don't know. That's just my 2 cents.
Okay, fair enough. So from what I've heard, it makes a lot of financial sense. It makes sense from the fan view. It makes sense from the player's view. Why hasn't it happened in 20 years then? Really, why? If you all have made great points, but what's the thing in your mind? What is it?
The league keeps talking about this perfect plan, and if you look at the history, and Liz, from when you covered it and from the time I'm covering it, they always like to have 2 proposals. Okay, which 2 do we like? And none of the 2 work perfectly for them. It's either the location or the funding or the whatever, and it's just. I mean, really, if the league truly wanted a team back, they would have had a team here by now. They just want to come back, and it's sort of listen, there's going to be games. If it's the Los Angeles Rams versus the Cleveland Browns, and both teams are struggling, it will not be sold out. But I have Sunday ticket, and I watch a lot of games on Sunday that are not sold out. I don't understand why Los Angeles has to be held to some higher standard that, you have to sell out all the games, and when we come back, it has to be just right. Just come back. I just think it would be good to have a team here.
But wouldn't you be worried, or my sense is they'd be worried that it would be kind of like a Clippers scenario where they're going to spend...
Have the second best record in the NBA.
Right, but how long did it take them to get there? I mean, for a while it was the Clippers was oh, you're adorable.
Well, okay, do you want to have a bad team in Jacksonville or a bad team in Los Angeles? Here's the thing. Worst case scenario, you have a team in Los Angeles. You're hosting the Super Bowl here once every few years.
Right.
Maybe you have the Pro Bowl here. Maybe you have the Combine here. There is the NFL, before they had this game here, there was no connection to Los Angeles. Last game in Los Angeles was December 24th, 1994. There hasn't been a preseason game here. There hasn't been a regular season. There's been no, this league left Los Angeles and hasn't done a single thing to come back. You could have held a draft here. You could have held a preseason game. You could have done something. They've left and they haven't come back, and that's on the league. I mean, a part of it's the city, but a huge part of it's the league, I think.
You just can avoid approving Donald Sterling as an owner in the NFL to avoid the Clipper problem too. I think having good ownership would get around that problem.
And by the way, the reason 2 teams left is we had 2 of the worst owners in the history of pro football, as my man here can attest to.
Well,
If I could just
yeah,
real quick,
please.
I think there are 3, just to make it short, 3 reasons it hasn't happened here in the last 20 years. Number one, in the 90s, you had a lot of teams in flux. That was a big, either they dissolve, they move, they do whatever. Second, you had the change in commissionerships in the 2000s, and Tagliabue knew he was sort of winding down. Goodell came up. The third problem is you talk about a Super Bowl in L.A., a preseason game in L.A. There's one guy in the NFL office, and his whole job is to facilitate the NFL in London. The NFL's not interested in development in Los Angeles without a team. So that idea, which seems to make a lot more sense than London, for goodness sake, to have specific football-related events in L.A., there's no one in the league office forwarding that notion. So those are the 3 things to me. Why hasn't it happened in 20 years? To me, you can wrap it up in those 3 things.
Well, elaborate a little bit more on the London thing in terms of so there's somebody who's staffed for just developing London, developing a European market.
Yeah, I find it interesting that they tore down NFL Europe, which was a decent developmental league, which the league needs in the first place, by the way. But it's now we want to have games there, we want to have a Super Bowl there, we want to have a team there. For whatever reason, the NFL's doing that. I'm not really sure why. That's more attractive to them than an LA solution. So the LA solution will have to come to the NFL.
But I think they're 2 separate things. Since the NFL left Los Angeles, there have been over 29 or 30 games that have been in London, China, Mexico. I mean, it's smart to grow the league. The league is popular here, and the league knows that they don't have to come back here for it to be popular, because there's bars throughout the Southland that have, you got your Chicago Bears bar, and your Cowboys bar, and your Steelers bar. So there's fans here. I mean, we don't need, here's the thing, we don't need to have a team here, and the league does not need to have a team here.
But do we need to have a team in London?
No. But that's what it never made sense to me either, because I think the NBA's talking about that too, and I just think it's a huge stretch to think you're going to have a team in Los Angeles, for example, travel to London. I mean, that's I don't even know. That's a long flight. So, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, the question is, why don't we have a team here? Okay, so who runs the NFL? The owners of the NFL teams. Mm-hmm. They're 32 billionaire people, right? Why don't they want to have a team here? I mean, it's really, it's not like, oh, we can't fill a stadium, we don't have enough people here. It has to do with those people. And everything, Arash, and you say that, how many times has this been used as a bargaining chip, and when
22.
Was the latest time?
Minnesota. In Minnesota, they said that directly.
Year? Last year?
This past year.
This past year.
Yeah.
So the reason why is that we will never, this state, no, and then that's why we have the stadium problem in every NFL club that's in the state. Taxpayers in California will never pay for any sports stadium. They won't do it. But California's always been a leader for the rest of the country in what they'll do. So, I mean, that's it. But you certainly have billionaires who live in this city. I wonder if one of the reasons why we don't have a team in the city is because what I've been told and what I believe, look at the Dodgers sale. Yeah. So whoever, one of these owners, Rams, Raiders, Chargers, any of these clubs that move here, what I have heard and been told by people who do money deals and that, is whoever gets that team's value is going to double in price immediately. Right. So which one of the 32 billionaires is going to be the lucky guy or gal to get, and what sort of an increase? We have, these teams are worth $1 billion at least, to get $1 billion increase in the value of their team. That may be an issue.
But hasn't the commissioner said he'd prefer an expansion team rather than moving a team?
Way they're gonna have an expansion team.
They're not gonna.
Questioning from us here?
Yes, I'm not sure on time. Don, how are we doing on time? About 20 minutes? Yeah, so we'll take just a couple more of them, and then, I love it. I like it. Yeah, leaning into it.
I was just thinking that it would be even easier. I'm sure location is an issue if they just use the Rose Bowl or the Coliseum, kind of renovate it a little bit and maybe put your dollars to a nice training facility for the team, and then that'll be an easier transition for an organization.
Coliseum needs to be demolished.
Well, actually, let's do that. Let's move out to the I already see hands up, so go for it. And I'm just going to repeat it back just so that the folks out there can hear it too.
So when the Farmers Field land was sold to the city, it's very apparent, the mayor, Rio LaRosa even said 2 teams, like came out of the press conference football, like, hey, we're probably going to have 2 teams. And right at the same time is when Godell said maybe it would be better if we had 2 expansion teams. 2 expansion teams here. I don't.
He threw that idea out there during a interview, and from everyone I've talked to within the league, they are not looking to expand. So I think he said the only way that would happen in the next year or so is if we had 2 expansion teams, but that's not going to happen. So
But we're so far away from it happening now anyway.
Yeah.
Because with the Vikings deal now going for another 6 years, whatever that stadium, I think the San Diego Chargers, they have until what, 2020?
They can leave after every year, so they could leave next year.
The Chargers.
My sort of odds-on favorite right now is the St. Louis Rams leaving after their whole. They're in arbitration, but they're so the city wants to make slight changes for $120 million or $200 million, and basically St. Louis Rams are saying we want a $700 million. So they're so far apart, and basically he wants to leave. That's the feeling I get. So yeah.
I mean, they're making the statements that they want to stay. I still think.
You have to say that.
But I think
Yeah.
you can still have 2 expansion teams there. You're not going to have it.
Yeah.
7 or 8 years. I think you should have 2 expansion teams.
Yeah, for some reason the league does not agree with expansion right now. I'm not saying that it couldn't happen in the future, but sure, I agree. Yeah.
Real quick, and then we're going to go to you. So, Steve, do you think the players in the Rams would be okay with that?
Oh, I know so. We talked about it all
Pretty
season
sure
long.
Steve
We would be out literally in practice,
Pride at
during
Taft High School
practice,
in
talking
USC.
about playing in LA, honestly. So.
And all right, so you talk about, but what comes up? What does that mean? You
We're
talk
just
about
like, man, how nice would it be to just be practicing right now in LA and get to go to the mall after in LA, and it's such a beautiful day all the time, and so.
And real quick, as these guys can attest to, there's 40, 50 years of history with the Rams here, and I think if they were to come back, it's not like a brand new thing. You're talking about Jack Youngblood and all these guys would come back to support it, and I'll let these guys have their time.
Go for it. Ask a question.
I'm really not going to ask a question. I have a statement, and I think some of us fans should be sitting up there with those guys. My name is Eric Geller. I'm a member of the media. I was raised in Los Angeles. We had season tickets to the Rams from 1973 until Christmas Eve 1994. The Rams had 50 years here, and I think for you people, for some of you to think that the NFL doesn't need to be in LA, I think that's completely wrong, because LA is the entertainment capital of the world. You have 2 NBA teams, 2 major league teams, and the last 17 years we've missed out on seeing Brett Favre, Peyton Manning, Ray Lewis is retiring. It's ridiculous, and yeah, the NFL is going to make money no matter what with fantasy football and all this, but a team needs to be here, and it's ridiculous. The only reason there isn't a team here is because of the stadium issue. Otherwise, who wouldn't want to come here?
You agree? The only reason that thank you for that. The only reason that the team isn't here is because of the stadium issue.
Oh, 100%.
100%.
Yeah.
I have one more thing to say really quickly, if I can.
Go for it.
The NFL trying to go to London, to me, it's like a major company outsourcing and having cheaper labor in a different country. Because if you come to LA for an exhibition game, I remember going to see Times charity games with the Rams and the Cowboys playing in summer because the Cowboys were out in Oxnard. The place was filled. But if you do something like that, you make more money and you keep the money being spent here instead of in London. So to me, it's like Microsoft going to China for cheaper labor.
Except that it's more expensive outsourcing. It's going to cost a lot more money to facilitate a team in London anyway.
No, I understand that, but you got to take care of here first. I mean, this is the entertainment capital of the world. It's ridiculous.
I think we're all in agreement on that.
George is happy to call the commissioner after this, so he's good on that. All the way in the back. So the question is, how much is it actually the city political issues versus the NFL saying yes or no. Is that correct?
That was a big problem because the city wanted it to be at the Coliseum. The perception of the league at the Coliseum was really bad. They did not want to return to the Coliseum. So, yeah, well, that's so until the city council finally said the NFL is not coming back to the Coliseum, which happened around 2004-05, then things began to pick up. But yeah, for a long time it was like, we can remodel the Coliseum, and they're like, we are not coming back to the Coliseum.
Anybody else?
I mean, I think the political issue has been the same all the time. It's not a political issue in the city of Los Angeles. It's a political issue of we are never going to pay any taxpayer money for a stadium.
That's the other big thing.
And that has not changed.
Right.
That's stayed the same. And so Arash has been covering it more than I have, and he tells me it's still the case where you have owners and cities who are trying to get money from taxpayers, and if they move here to, you don't want to set that precedent.
Yeah.
And that's the same. And to me, that's the political issue.
What's the precedent you don't want to set?
You don't want it to set a precedent of, okay, well, LA will not pay for, taxpayers will not pay for a football stadium in Los Angeles. So then if you're in Kansas City or whatever, a small town, then the taxpayers are going to say, people in LA won't pay, we're not going to pay either.
But that's why they're not going to get a stadium in San Diego, because they're not going to pay for it. In St. Louis is the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know as much about the specific. I'll defer to my Angelino friends, but as a resident of a city that lost its basketball team and didn't have to, I'll say two things. Leagues do not want refurbished stadiums or arenas under any conditions, and taxpayers are not going to pay for them anymore.
100%.
Right.
It's
Exactly
private
right.
ownership or nothing.
Yeah.
That's it.
Right here.
I want to make a comment because I actually went to the game in London this year, and it was a great event, fantastic support. But every British or European fan, I asked them point blank, would an NFL team be supported? And to a man, every one of them said no. They said that, you know what, they love it. They say that American football, the game that they have every year, it is a slice of America that everyone loves. But
To have it
soccer,
every year.
soccer is absolutely king, and they love their football once a year.
Mhm.
And again, it's a great turnout, it's a great event, it's a great thing that the NFL does. But supporting a team there in the league over the course of a season is completely unrealistic.
Right.
Even to everyone who loves American football in England.
So even the folks in the UK or in London who like the NFL, it's more of a novelty thing for them.
Exactly.
And there's a gotcha.
It's a great novelty.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right. Brian Bassett.
If the taxpayers aren't going to pay for the stadium, talking about PSLs, what do people think about paying $20,000 for a seat in a stadium? If the taxpayers aren't paying, the owners are not paying $1 billion for a stadium. I'm a Jets fan, so I know.
Right. The question is if the taxpayers aren't going to pay through public funding, are they willing to pay in ticket prices? Is that right?
We have some
In personal seat license.
We have some very rich people in Los Angeles, and they in the entertainment industry, and they spend that for lunch. So we can, the sports is not
Yankee
for
Stadium's still
regular
empty.
fans anymore. That hasn't been the case for how many years now? And so in Los Angeles, that's the point. You have people here who would pay those prices for when and if we ever have a hot winning team. They have to have those seats. They must have them. They're going to have them. That's it. They'll pay it.
Yeah, I have friends in the entertainment industry who are ready to get on a waiting list right now and put up, $20,000, $30,000 to get on a waiting list for that seat license.
I guess, sorry, just one thought. Are there 80,000 people?
Yeah. Are there 80,000 people who are willing to do that?
Well, the great thing about it is that the sizes of the two proposed stadiums would be about 55 to 60 or whatnot during a season. And then the PSLs you're talking about, I don't know what the number would be, but the football stadium that will be built here will not be the same size as the Coliseum or something like that. They get that it needs to be smaller. So,
Sid, you had a...
I guess I don't understand. Everybody talks about the need to move back to LA, and I'm perfectly thrilled that there's a team here, and everybody that I know is perfectly thrilled. You don't have
That there is a team here? That there's not a team here?
you don't have to get Sunday tickets to get the best team games on TV. You're not
but you still get stuck with like the Chargers games or other games.
No,
A lot of times, though.
But not always, they don't sell out.
Yeah, but I guess my question or whatever to you, yeah.
So I don't understand what the big need is. The NFL is soaring. Everybody's making lots of money. The fans in LA don't need it.
So the question is, do the fans really need it?
Real quick, yeah.
Need it? Need it? Okay,
Like
yeah.
the point that I keep making is this not a need thing.
Come here. Do you really care that you need the Jaguars?
But that's a good question. If it is the Jaguars, like,
Yeah, I mean, the point was made earlier. You have millions of people here who never got to see Brett Favre, who never have gotten to see Tom Brady come here, who never got to see Ray Lewis. I mean, I just know that people would be into that, and I think it's very sad that hasn't happened.
I've never seen Brett Favre play live. I don't care.
Well, that's true. No, that's
but
true.
there's
but
little
a lot
kids
of,
that might.
yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
I mean,
I was a kid growing up in LA and never really had ties to a LA team. I was always looking to Dallas or San Francisco or something, to some other team. I want to grab something from home, and maybe me now a professional, I might be able to play for my home team. So.
let's go right here.
You referred to the team winning a couple times. What happens if they don't?
So oh, go ahead. Did you?
You asked me?
The question is just really quick. Yeah. So we talked about it'll be a success if the team wins, but what if they
people
don't?
won't want to be seen there. They're not going to be seen there. Would you agree, Steve? He's from. Yeah. See, they're not going to be seen, but they'll pay.
Yeah.
But they'll pay for when and if.
It'll
the
be
team
similar
wins, but they're not
to
gonna wanna be
half
seen.
the other leagues, you know.
Right. But look at the here.
No matter what.
Right.
Yeah, well, this is not. Yeah,
I mean,
it's going to be comparable to Miami. Have you ever watched a game in Miami where the team's not doing too well?
Yeah.
And
well,
the
there you are.
bright orange, empty seats.
But you
you
can
know,
have
it
something
just
like,
happened.
So in horse racing,
Use the mic.
we have Del Mar.
Yeah.
Okay. And I went to Del Mar like last summer on a Friday night, and I'm a horse player. I know horse racing. And it was a horrible card, 7-race card on a Friday night, and it was packed. Beautiful people, gorgeous people. Steve would like to go, huh? Yeah, beautiful, handsome people. You know, it was a social event. So if you have NFLPA in LA, you have a winning team here, you have movie stars hanging out the rafters, which you will have, and they win and they go to the Super Bowl, to me it increases the value of the NFL. I mean, I don't see how you can't, right? You think so?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. In the back, there was.
They.
So your question is: Are we here? Are you hearing from the media as actually being an advocate for LA for an LA team?
Yeah, the league just signed a 10-year contract agreement for the TV, so that's not going to change. But I'm sure they would like to have a team here.
Yeah, I mean, ESPN would love to have LA versus New York, or LA versus New England, or LA versus Steelers, or LA versus anybody, just from a market standpoint. Absolutely.
Doug, did you have something? Were you about to talk?
Well, the NFL is going to gross $20 billion primarily from the TV deals by the end of this decade, whether LA is involved or not. The question is, what's the high side? That's what they have to look at.
Go for it.
Steve, for being a former USC player, you talked about growing up here, you looked up to Dallas Cowboys. I'm sure you also looked up to USC. How much does it hurt if an NFL team comes here, UCLA and USC's fan base?
Wait, so the question is, would it hurt to take the?
If an NFL team comes here, does it hurt USC and UCLA, their brand?
So
Yeah,
if an NFL team comes here, does it hurt USC's brand, like the other teams that exist
I don't
here?
know. I don't think it hurts the brand necessarily, but it might hurt maybe some ticket sales because people might want to go to the NFL game that's on Sunday instead of that game on Saturday. You know, me being at SC, when I was there, we said we were the NFL team of LA anyway. But, you know, I don't know. We'd have to see when that time comes.
So people who went to USC, what does USC stand for? No offense to people from there.
Careful, that's half the
University
people
of
here.
Spoiled Children. So people who went to USC, they have a lot of money. I know some of them, they're my friends. You know, some of them are, and they have a lot of money. So I don't think it would hurt ticket sales at USC. That's just me, though.
Yeah.
I do. I don't know why. I have
want to
no
be one.
money.
Who else? There were a couple other hands up. All right, cool. So here's what I'd like to do. I'd like to go down through each of you and have you make a prediction of what team will move here and what year they will be playing in Los Angeles in a new stadium. What team, what year?
Okay, I'll go.
Use a mic. Yeah.
I'll go first. I predict the St. Louis Rams moving here the year after this season, this coming up season.
So 2014?
Yeah, 2014.
Awesome. Who else? You're now officially on record.
San Diego Chargers 2016 in the new stadium after moving out of Dodger Stadium. That's my upset pick.
Wow.
I'm going to get crazy here.
Go for it.
Me?
Yeah,
oh,
Liz.
God. I'm looking at these teams. I think it's going to be, whoever the team is, it's going to be a different ownership than you have now. Like a completely different owner is not in the NFL right now. And it's going to be 2016, and I'll say Bills.
Oh. That was the Bills, in case you didn't hear that.
Oh, they did? Well, forget. I thought they were on my list. All right, hold on. I'll take, who's going to sell their team? Raiders.
Okay. Raiders in 2016? Is that what you just said?
Somebody keeps calling me.
Go ahead.
I'm hearing groans from L.A. there.
Am I the only one who doesn't think it's going to happen? Because
I don't think it's happening.
If the NFL wanted a team here, there'd be a team here. I would love for there to be a team here. I would go to many games as a reporter and as a spectator. I don't think it's happening in the next 15 years. Sadly, sorry.
I think the St. Louis Rams come back home to Los Angeles in 2015.
In 2015.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you all for your predictions. You will be held to them. And I would like to say thank you to all of you for your questions and your conversation, and I'd ask you to please just acknowledge our panel for their insights and what they have to offer. And I believe, Don, I think are we gonna roll into the next one? We're going to keep going. So I'm going to invite your friend and mine, Don Povia, back up to the podium and to speak about the second screen. Wah, wah, wah.